shortly.
Thank you, Dwayne. Well, Democratic candidate for Iowa Governor Rob Sand has come out in favor of legalizing marijuana, and that's why this next story caught my attention. We're talking about marijuana legalization's become big business for a lot of politicians, and Virginia politics has erupted into turmoil after the FBI raided the office and cannabis business tied to the Senate President Pro Tem of Virginia, Louise Lucas. The U.S. political reporter at the Daily Mail, our friend Victoria Churchill, is on top of this story, and Victoria is on the Davison Family Dentistry Newsmaker line this morning. Victoria, welcome back to WHO. Good morning.
Good morning. Always great to be back with you, Jeff.
Well, and you are contemplating, Victoria, how this story in Virginia might just become a national political earthquake. Why do you think that might happen?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the timing of this is quite interesting because, of course, Louise Lucas, who is the subject of this investigation, national FBI investigation, of course, taking place in Virginia, just a few hours down the road from our nation's capital in Portsmouth, where, her district is, where she lives, where she has businesses. The timing of this, some people are suspicious of because Virginia just passed the 10-1 congressional redistricting, which eliminates most of the Republican congressional seats. Right now it's a 6-4 map, a 6-5 map. And so it would eliminate every single seat that Republicans hold except for one. This is, honestly the most crazy gerrymandered map. Virginia voters voted on it just about a couple of weeks ago, actually on April 21st, which is interesting because, you talk about marijuana. Louise Lucas, she's known for having quite a vibrant social media presence. So actually on 4/20, April 20th, which of course is a big day for people that use marijuana, she posted a graphic on Twitter, on X, that would say, I fill my bong with Republican tears. And that was the day before this redistricting vote took place in Virginia just a couple weeks ago. But Lucas is actually somebody that pushed for marijuana decriminalization in Virginia. She owns a cannabis dispensary, which, shares a parking lot with her state Senate office. And, she's, I think part of the really interesting part of this is that Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger was asked about this FBI raid that took place earlier this week on Lucas's business and office. And, Abigail Spanberger did not seem very upset by this. Those two have butted heads for a while, even though they are of the same political party. And, Virginia, even though now it's controlled by a Democrat, the Republicans are still fired up. They're still trying to make whatever mark they can on policy. And this redistricting vote, it won for kind of the Democrat side by a very, very narrow margin, which really goes to show, in my view, that Virginia, even though I like to say it's a swing state, the past couple of elections haven't necessarily gone the way for Republicans, but there's very, very tight margins, particularly in these districts that are now going to be given to Democrats, where I've covered a majority of these districts, which is the 2nd district in Virginia Beach, and then a couple districts that are kind of in the Washington, D.C. suburbs or really exurbs that are kind of about an hour and a half outside of the nation's capital. These are competitive elections that I've covered all the way going back to 2022, now to this year's midterms. And so I think that just really speaks to the political climate of Virginia, that even though Democrats have become victorious in the last couple of elections, Republicans are still fired up. They still want to go out to vote, and especially with this referendum, Republicans turned out more for this referendum than they did for some of their own Republican candidates, which I think, again, just really goes to show the fact that Virginians are in tune and they want what they see as proper representation, which at this point they're not going to get. These maps are now going to be caught up in courts. So that's just kind of a big mess that we're dealing with here in Virginia overall. But I also think you have to look at, for example, even states like Michigan, of course not Virginia, but they have crazy statewide races for governor and U.S. Senate. And there's also been kind of some dem-on-dem action over there where the state attorney general filed 16 charges just the other day against one of Gretchen Whitmer's top allies. So, even though across the country, we're seeing that people of the same political party are willing to call out, issues where they see with people in their own party.
It's going to be fascinating because you're right. National elections, statewide elections are not just about who gets voted for, but who gets caught up in scandal. And there may be more on the horizon. That is the U.S. political reporter at the Daily Mail, Victoria Churchill. Victoria, thanks for joining us this